Corporate greed and exploitation are often the catalyst for disaster within the Alien franchise, with megacorporations like Weyland-Yutani serving as the background antagonists behind the titular aliens. Aliens vs. Predator 2010 is no exception, as the opening cutscene showcases Weyland-Yutani's final preparations to breach an ancient Predator temple, led by the enigmatic Bishop Weyland himself. This ancient temple, sealed for centuries and filled with unknowable, dangerous secrets, will be the cause for many, many deaths. Many of those will be at our own hands. The temple opens. At its heart, Aliens vs. Predator 2010 is a multiplayer game, a sequel in many ways to the similarly named series from the early 2000s. AVP 2010 has mostly died off over the past decade plus since its release, though a few small groups keep the multiplayer aspect of this game alive. Because of this, it might be easy to pass up AVP 2010 as a dead game, something not really worth anyone's time, but that doesn't mean its single-player aspect should be overlooked. Though its multiplayer is mostly dead, the game's campaign now acts as the living legacy of the game, one of the last Aliens vs. Predator games ever made. In today's retrospective, we will explore this legacy, looking at different aspects of the single-player gameplay to determine if this game is worth picking up for $15 or whether it should be left to fade into the Steam Backlogs. The main gameplay for the Aliens vs. Predator campaign features 3 unique playstyles: the Marine, Alien, and Predator. Each has similar yet differing playstyles that borrow and iterate on each other's gameplay, having unique movement, powers, and weapons that give each a different flavor, but making it easy to transition between them. The Marine is probably the simplest and most familiar playstyle for anyone familiar with FPS games, but that doesn't mean it's a boring playstyle. While the Marine lacks the mobility of his extraterrestrial adversaries, moving slowly, jumping low, he makes up for it by packing heavy firepower. Most of the Marine's arsenal of weapons pack a huge punch, with a couple of exceptions. The first exception is the sidearm pistol, which makes sense due to it being your first weapon and fallback weapon. The pistol has a single and burst shot fire modes, as well as infinite ammo. If aimed carefully for headshots, the pistol can still make mincemeat of aliens, though this is best done with single shots, as the burst fire tanks its accuracy. The burst fire is best saved for close-range panic shots, though there is a much better option at the Marine's disposal. The Marine can raise his weapon to block incoming melee attacks, which can then be followed up with a forceful shove or some hot lead. If used appropriately, this can make the Marine just as formidable at close range as the Alien and Predator, though using this system in the heat of battle takes some practice. Returning to the Marine's arsenal, he can use the iconic M418 pulse rifle, complete with grenade launcher and all. This is probably the most versatile weapon the Marine has access to, as its high magazine and fire rate allow him to engage aliens at close and far range. The grenade launcher acts as crowd control, as though it struggles to kill aliens outright and has a small blast radius, it does consistently stumble and knock them down, which is especially useful against the more powerful alien variants. The only real downside to the pulse rifle would be its low max ammo, as when combined with its high fire rate, it is extremely easy to shred through its ammo pool. The best way to counter this is to use short bursts of fire, while carefully aiming for headshots, maximizing the damage while minimizing the bullets wasted. Being able to hold a max of 2 main weapons, the shotgun is a good second pick for more dangerous close encounters. The shotgun, while lacking in loaded and ammo pool capacity, makes up for it with extremely powerful shots. The shotgun decimates enemies at close range, being able to 1 or 2 shot enemies, which is extremely useful in the many claustrophobic corridors throughout the game. If extra firepower is needed, the shotgun's secondary fire also uses 2 shots at once, making a strong weapon even stronger at the cost of using a bit more ammo. The shotgun and the pulse rifle make a formidable pair, able to deal with a variety of enemies at any distance. The next few weapons the Marine can use are less versatile, though no less powerful, for better and worse. The first of these is the Smart Gun. a weapon that comes packaged with auto-aim, a high magazine size, and decent damage, making it the perfect group culling machine. However, this all comes at the cost of relinquishing both main weapons and a drastically slow walking speed, making it difficult to get distance from enemies that get too close, or changing to a different weapon in an evolving situation. This issue is especially prevalent against stronger aliens like the Praetorians, as its slow speed makes it difficult to dodge their attacks, and its damage isn't high enough to quickly kill these formidable foes. Because of this, the smart gun is best reserved for use against large alien groups, while staying close to other dropped weapons should a stronger foe emerge. The next weapon, the flamethrower, is also extremely situational but also extremely dangerous for yourself to use, being the worst weapon in the game. The main reason for this weapon sucking is that aliens, when set ablaze by the flamethrower, create a lethal explosion as their acid blood heats up. Couple this with the aliens' tendency to want to get into melee range, and the flamethrower's own low range, flame streams, the flamethrower ends up killing you more than the aliens. The secondary fire isn't that useful either, as it spits out fuel on the ground to be lit, which the aliens fearlessly walk through. A cool weapon in theory, one that should be the ultimate weapon to use against the aliens, but one that in practice is more dangerous to use than it's really worth. Best reserved for single targets over groups. The next weapon, however, does not suffer any of these shortfalls. The scoped rifle is a powerful sniping weapon with a large magazine size, ammo pool, and damage, making it the perfect weapon to use against all enemies in the game. It will kill most aliens in one shot, and its high fire rate makes it possible to unload on much tougher enemies, pumping out huge damage in a short amount of time. It also lacks the mobility downsides of the smart gun, meaning that if both are in the same room, the scoped rifle is usually the preferred choice. The rifle's long-range accuracy and infrared scope also makes it easy to safely deal with ranged enemies. The only real downside is that it can be a bit unwieldy at close ranges, though if bullet spam isn't enough, using a secondary weapon solves the issue. Aside from weapons, the Marine also has to collect healing stems, of which he can carry a maximum of 3 to heal when he takes damage. These are plentiful enough throughout the level, assuming you don't take too many hits, but there were some tense moments throughout my playthrough where I found myself out of stems and low on health. The Marine also has health regeneration somewhat, within 3 health brackets, so it is possible to take some damage, but not need to deal with the healing stem. The Marine also has a motion sensor on his HUD which tracks any movement in the forward-facing direction. The tracker also provides a sound cue when any motion is detected, so if you don't see anything on the tracker, it's a great cue to turn around. The motion tracker can also read a fairly large distance, but because it only tracks motion, it isn't able to tell you if an enemy is above or below you or through a wall, etc. It's up to the player to use their best judgment. This all makes the tracker a fairly balanced tool, letting you know when an enemy is around and if they get close, while still forcing you to stay on your toes and look around. The Marine can also be very susceptible to enemies in the dark, as the aliens become almost invisible in the many dark spaces throughout the campaign. To counter this, the Marine has a very narrow flashlight, the kind every horror movie character seems to have, making it possible, though difficult, to spot enemies in the dark. To expand his tunnel vision, the Marine can throw a flare, lighting up everything around it in a harsh red light. The flare is great when confronted with multiple enemies in a dark area, though they only last for a short time after being thrown, though fortunately, they are of unlimited use. Overall, the Marine is a solid playstyle that has both firepower and versatility, able to stand toe-to-toe with the aliens and predators, while still being vulnerable to them in several ways. The alien is the antithesis to the Marine's gameplay. The Marine is slow and powerful, while the alien is quick and stealthy. The alien has much more mobility than the Marine, as it can maneuver through tight vents to circumvent threats, move and attack along the walls and ceilings of structures, and it can focus on a target from a distance before leaping forward in a devastating attack that stuns its prey, leaving it open to follow-up attacks. The The alien also has a regenerating health system, where health will slowly heal after not taking damage for a period of time. Because of this, the alien's gameplay is a bit more forgiving to mistakes, though you are still extremely squishy if caught in a bad spot. The alien also uses a light and heavy attack system, with light attacks being fast hitting but low damaging, while heavy attacks require a windup but reward more damage. The heavy attack can also be used to break through an enemy's block, but being hit with a melee attack during the windup leaves you vulnerable to retaliation. This isn't as much of a worry when facing Marines, but the Predators become a tough fight with this system, as their moves must be read very carefully, blocking their attacks and punishing their mistakes, while not leaving yourself open. Or you could just spam the tail attack. Yes, the alien has a ranged tail attack, activated as a heavy attack when a certain distance from an enemy. This attack can knock down enemies, and since it counts as a heavy attack, they can't block it. There is a brief window before they can be knocked down again, during which they can retaliate, but keeping them at range and spamming the attack keeps them hurting. Kinda broken. However, some of the alien's mobility bugs make up for this ability to cheese. The alien, as said before, has the ability to traverse along the walls and ceilings of structures, but sometimes the game has trouble transitioning between these different structures. Sometimes the alien will refuse to transition by walking between surfaces, and if trying to leap between them, the alien can apparently get caught in a transition cycle as the game contemplates what to do. When this mobility wonkiness is coupled with the disgusting fisheye effect that plagues the alien's vision, you're in for a rough time. The alien also has some strange camera quirks, in that the camera is often out of your control, such as during jumps and the like, which makes sense, but also during simple walking, as the camera moves depending on the angle of the terrain you're walking across. I'm not sure why this is the case, as the gameplay would feel much more natural if the movement and camera were not affected by each other, and its effect that's not present with the Marine or really with the Predator either. Feels like the developers wanted to make the alien's traversal mechanics less disorienting for the average player, but ended up adding to it instead. These issues aside, the alien still has fun gameplay, mainly revolving around the alien's more stealthy approach to much of the campaign. AVP 2010 has a finisher system, which allows you to easily dispatch an enemy with a cinematic and very graphic animation. In the context of stealth, sneaking up behind an unaware enemy will allow you to perform a stealth finisher, quietly dispatching them without alerting their team. However, there are a few quirks to this system with the alien. Firstly, the alien has a stealth mechanic where being in dark areas makes it much harder for the Marine AI to spot you. These dark areas are denoted with your crosshair turning dark. One of the first lessons we are taught in stealth is the ability to smash lights, creating a dark area to lure unsuspecting foes to. However, the system isn't as intuitive as one might think, as there are areas that appear dark but, according to the crosshair, aren't. In addition, there are many lights throughout the game you can't smash, some of which emit actual light, while others don't. This makes it a bit difficult to intuitively use the stealth system, as it can often be easy to overlook the crosshair when focusing on Marine movements. So what's the issue with not being in the dark? Approaching an enemy from behind will, no matter what, allow you to perform a finishing attack. But stealth finishers will only play out when you're cloaked in darkness. Not when your target is hidden from the team, not if you only sneak up behind them quietly, only when you initiate the finisher in darkness. Otherwise, your unsuspecting prey will horribly scream out as they're being torn apart, alerting their whole team to their unfortunate end.
Coming over.
Thankfully, you can quickly run away if something goes wrong, though it can be funny when you're beginning an animation, realizing it's not a stealthy one, and realizing you've completely blown your cover. Another thing about finisher animations is that, stealthy or not, they are quite lengthy. Unlike those seen in the recent Doom games, where you're encouraged to use them due to their iframes, speed, and resource reward, finishers here should only be executed when you're sure no one else can attack you, and it would otherwise take longer to defeat an enemy. There were many times where I began a finisher, only for a Marine to be alerted to his teammate's demise, and gunning me down as I finished the lengthy kill. Stealth is also made interesting due to the Marines' AI and tools. The Marines can utilize their motion sensors, or perhaps just their ears, to detect you if you try to sneak up behind them, seeing you through walls if you move too fast, encouraging you to move slowly to sneak up on them. Alternatively, the alien can utilize a hissing sound to lure a Marine to a particular location, somewhere far away from their friends and into darkness, making it easy to kill them. However, if the Marines are already alerted to you, they won't fall for your tricks, taunting you for even trying. This makes stealth important, as alerted Marines will either group up and hold their position, or rush to hunt you down. They will calm down after a bit, but their patrol patterns will be disrupted, making it a bit more difficult to isolate them. Another reason stealth is important is for harvesting civilians. Accompanying Marine patrols will often be civilian NPCs, engineers supporting the team, rescued colonists, scared archaeologists, all vulnerable and ripe for harvesting. The game encourages harvesting these civilians by increasing your end mission score, but getting them isn't always so easy, as not everyone wants to be impregnated by the Weenus monster. The first few civilians are typically easy. Kill the Marine guards, they'll run away, cower somewhere, you'll find them, and then harvest them. However, some will take drastic measures if you aren't stealthy, killing themselves in various ways to avoid our free hugs. To get to most of these civilians, stealth and alternate routes must be used, and there is a Steam achievement for harvesting all civilians. Though the alien isn't my favorite playstyle in the game, it can still be quite fun to pick off Marine squads from the shadows, or run around tearing them apart like a rabid crack dog. But even against the alien, there's always a bigger fish. That fish is the Predator, the ultimate hunter. This playstyle has the most tools and abilities, making it a complex yet extremely fun way to play the game. The Predator acts as a mix between the Marine and alien, having strong melee attacks and mobility, while also having a varied arsenal of powerful weapons and tools to help hunt the various enemies throughout the game. Starting with melee, the Predator uses the same melee system as the alien, having a light and heavy attack used in the same circumstances as the alien. The Predator unfortunately lacks the ranged tail attack of the alien, obviously, meaning that it can't stun lock like it does, but its other tools make up for that. The Predator also has a focus mode like the alien, allowing it to target an enemy from a distance and leap towards it, dealing damage and knocking it over. This ability is especially useful for meleeing aliens crawling along the walls, as the Predator leaps not only horizontally, but vertically as well, meaning that it can attack aliens outside of its normal melee range. The Predator can also use up to 4 tools in addition to its melee kit. The starting tool is the iconic Plasma Caster, a powerful ranged weapon that can track targets from a far distance, but relying on a limited energy supply to function, which can be resupplied in small generators throughout the mission. The Plasma Caster can be fired quickly to interrupt enemy actions, or charge to deal extreme damage and activate its lock-on system. Charging expectedly uses more energy, but the power is well worth it, especially when focusing on multiple enemies. However, the Plasma Caster should generally only be used once in combat, as the caster's signature red laser lines immediately give away the Predator's position while in stealth. The Plasma Caster, while the first tool you get access to, remains an extremely useful and versatile tool throughout your playthrough. The next tool the Predator has access to is the Plasma Mine, a powerful trap tool that relies on the same energy pool as the Plasma Caster. These mines are perfect for setup and stealth kills, as they can be placed along the patrol paths of enemies, creating a large explosion as they pass by. It's important to place these when Marines aren't looking, as storing them like a grenade right in front of them causes them to dodge out of the way. The mines can also be used as a fallback option, placing several together in a safe area and luring enemies back there can be an effective strategy, as you can also manually detonate mines if enemies don't stray close enough to the mine sensor. The Smart Disc is another tactical option the Predator can use, more of a support weapon than something like the Plasma Caster, as while it can struggle to kill enemies outright, it can damage and knock them down, while being able to be used for free, as it lacks the energy costs of the caster and mines. The thrown disc will follow your target laser, sweeping through enemies if thrown, right before coming back, best part of the disc is that you can still melee attack while throwing it, meaning you can deal immense damage without expending a single drop of energy, and having a good source of crowd control. Like the plasma caster, the smart disc will reveal your location while in stealth due to its use of the targeting lasers, so it is best reserved for open combat. While it works on Marines, the disc excels against aliens due to its crowd control capabilities. No hunter's arsenal would be complete without the powerful combi stick, an extremely busted spear throwable that will easily one-shot most of the enemies in the game. Fittingly, it is reserved for the last mission of the game, but that doesn't mean it doesn't see much use. The combi stick can be used in stealth, and if aimed carefully with the small arc it flies through, can be used to neutralize enemies from a large distance. The best part of the combi stick is that you don't have to collect it after it is thrown, as it returns after an extremely short delay. Because of this, the weapon is very spammable, putting your other weapons to shame. The combi stick also pairs very well with your melee weapons and the smart disc. Throw the spear, leap into a group of enemies, toss and guide the smart disc, and shred the nearest enemy with your wrist blades. Late in the campaign, these tools make the Predator a monster to deal with. The Predator also has many utility tools that pair well with his more offensive weapons. The most obvious one is the Predator's cloak, an indefinite stealth ability that makes him all but invisible to most enemies if he stays a small distance away from them. The Predator can be spotted in cloak if he gets too close to enemies' sightlines or if he cloaks while already spotted, keeping it from being an overpowered ability. The cloak will only deactivate itself if the Predator attacks with his wrist blades or if he goes into the water, making it possible to spend almost the entire campaign cloaked. The Predator also has different vision modes he can cycle through. The first is the iconic heat vision, which turns your screen into a red and blue nightmare. It also helps highlight heat sources like the Marines. This is especially useful in areas like the jungle, where the Marines' camouflage makes it difficult to distinguish them from their environment. However, the aliens lack any kind of heat emissions, and become almost invisible in this vision mode. Fortunately, the Predator later gets access to a mode that highlights the aliens, turning them into glow-in-the-dark stickers for easy spotting. This mode makes it more difficult to spot Marines, making each mode specific for the enemy you face. The Predator also has a voice synthesis device, which essentially boils down to being a voice lure for the Marines. The Predator can target a specific Marine and play a voice from a set of predetermined Marine voices that can then lure the targeted Marine to a specific spot, preferably somewhere obscured from their team. From there, they can be safely ambushed. Like the alien, this lure will only work if the Marines aren't alerted, which is much easier with the Predator due to being able to basically send a Marine to their death with this mechanic. It lacks the risk-reward mechanic of the alien's lure, because using it poses no threat to the Predator. With the main gameplay out of the way, something else worth mentioning are the environments of Aliens vs. Predator. Despite being over a decade old, Aliens vs. Predator 2010 has an amazing art style that has held up fairly well throughout the years. The mines and sewer areas take heavy inspiration from the Aliens movies, using harsh industrial elements, dark directional lighting, and a lot of creepy ambience. There's a lot of storytelling in the environment, such as seeing areas of the ground eaten away by acid, scattered supplies and barricades, elements that showed that people tried to fight and survive against the aliens. As the alien, this environment serves to reinforce the idea that you are the apex predator. These dark halls, though built by people, have become your lair, your hunting grounds. Every corner, every vent, every tall ceiling, and obscured sightline gives you an advantage. These environments also reinforce the utilitarianism of Weyland-Yutani's design philosophy, as even though these areas were built for humans to live, work, and thrive, they lack any kind of natural or homey feel to them. Everything is made of metal, with many sections lacking any kind of beautification, often showing loose cables and pipings behind the walls. It's almost as though this place was never made for humans to comfortably live. As the Marine, you feel this environmental hostility, as each shadowed area could hide an alien. Couple this with your motion sensor, which often shows blips of movement occasionally behind the walls, it creates this unique sense of paranoia. Even though you possess superior firepower and tech, the aliens innately prey on our primal fears of the dark and of being hunted. Even areas like a nightclub, which should be bright and fun, are shadows of what they should be, with the bright club lights only further increasing the shadows. This already hostile environment becomes even more alien when we start seeing environments corrupted with alien hive growths. Going back to the club example, this already distorted environment takes on a monstrous shape with the hive growth, as the flashing club lights bounce off the organic architecture, making it difficult to distinguish environment from threat. Aliens can also hide within the hive walls, curling themselves in small alcoves in a sleeping state. However, there are also parts of the hive structure that look like these resting aliens, making it difficult to initially distinguish if these alcoves actually hold aliens or not, further heightening paranoia, as you are often drawn to investigate one alcove for signs of a threat, while another behind you holds the now agitated alien. These environments are fittingly alien and haunting, but still somewhat familiar, reflecting the movies they take inspiration from, while lending themselves extremely well to the gameplay and atmosphere of the game. In stark contrast to the colony environments are those of the Predator's ancient hunting grounds. These areas, appearing at the end of each character's campaigns, are haunting in their own way. They hold elaborate structures and traps, with towering sculptures and reliefs, showcasing both Predator and Alien, showing the reverence the ancient Predators had towards their prey. These grounds must have served as a rite of passage for younger Predators, forced to confront the traps and aliens in the hunting grounds. At the same time, the grounds seem made to draw out the best of the aliens. As for every trap that could be used against them, there are also numerous tunnels, as well as pressure plates to activate doors. At the end of the Aliens campaign, we encounter these pressure plates, which activate a door to a combat arena, where ancient Predators would face off against their ultimate prey. These pressure plates, and perhaps other traps that we don't see, ensured that the Predators only faced off against the strongest and smartest aliens, those that could withstand the challenges of the arena, but also smart enough to outwit it. Small gameplay details like this tell a lot about the ancient grounds and the Predators that hunted there that we never truly see for ourselves. The campaign of AVP 2010 is interesting, though somewhat confusing, as each campaign takes place both simultaneously while also having separate stories. They also utilize the same maps, though thankfully the environments are very good, and each campaign also has its own unique areas within the maps. These maps, aside from the obvious budget reasons, are probably recycled to help tie the separate campaigns together and create a more interconnected feeling world. It was cool playing through as the alien, and then later seeing its handiwork as the Marine in the same levels. Each individual campaign is also fairly short, being around 3 to 4 hours depending on difficulty, altogether creating about a typical 8 to 12 hour experience. Because of its length and the lack of too much story in the Alien and Predator campaigns, I won't go into spoilers in case you want to experience them for yourself. One last thing of note is the music. Though I can't really play it here, the music of Aliens vs. Predator is amazing, with some tracks taking the deep bass and drums from the Predator franchise, while others are more sinister, using the harsh strings from the Aliens franchise. I'll link the YouTube playlist down below if you want to check it out. One of my favorites is fittingly named The Predator, if you want a place to start. Overall, I think that the experience of Aliens vs. Predator 2010 holds up surprisingly well, with different playstyles, enemies, and environments to experience. The only real complaint that I have is that each individual campaign is short, although that's probably because altogether they come to about 8 to 12 hours. That being said, is it worth the $14.99 price on Steam? I absolutely think so, as the campaign is incredibly fun to run through, especially on higher difficulties, and the different playstyles always give you something to come back for each time. It's also cheap enough that you might be able to convince some of your friends to buy it too, to try out the multiplayer. With that being said, I highly encourage you to try out this game, as it's a fun and cheap way to burn some time, especially if you're a fan of either franchise. With that being said, thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you have a great day. See you next time.